and welcome to another of our Dental Business Transaction podcasts. And today I have huge pleasure in introducing Kunal Thakker, who is the CEO and founder of Tooth Club. Kunal, welcome.
Hi, Lily.
Kunal is going to talk to us. Obviously, he has a proven success rate of innovating and operating dental practices throughout the UK. And we're going to touch on how he started the Tooth Club, how he developed his brand and the learnings along the way, and also how to give buyers confidence in buying a fully private dental practice. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about a little bit about yourself, Kunal, for everybody. Talk about your background, yourself, and what drives you.
Thanks, Lily. Great to be here on this podcast. So I guess by way of background, my background's actually finance and not dentistry. So I spent the best part of my career at investment banks, Goldman Sachs and then HSBC. And whilst doing that, I always knew I wanted to do more. The finance world was very intangible. It wasn't making a difference on real people. And I wanted my own business. And I always knew I wanted my own business because my parents always had their own business. So it was almost in the blood. And I had a friend who was a dentist who said, I know nothing about business, but I want to buy a dental practice. So we joined up to a few of the agencies. And actually, Lily, it was you that sold me my first practice, which was in Basildon, and it was under the name of Tooth Doctor. And we had 3 practices under the brand of Tooth Doctor, but I still had to keep my day job. And our clinical director at the time got pregnant, and she's like, I'm going off on maternity leave. And in the end, I ended up picking up the dental practices and kind of growing the small group that we had there, 3 practices. And having not being a dentist myself, it was a huge challenge to kind of learn everything, but it was a great amount of fun. It was making a difference to real people, putting smiles on real people. And we were always private. We did, right now we're largely private with a small bit of NHS, but private tends to be where our brand, our group is kind of focused on. So we spent 5 years growing Tooth Doctor, and we sold that in 2019. And the only reason we sold it was a hugely profitable business, but the only reason we actually sold it was so we could go on and set up a new group that would be bigger and do it on a larger scale.
Lovely. So obviously I know how busy you are, but what about hobbies and interests? I mean, it's always an interesting one to ask my guests. What do you do to relax? What's your idea of wind down time, de-stressing? But any hobbies?
I don't know if it's wind down and hobbies, but I've got, so I'm married and I've got 3 kids who are Aria, Sienna and Hugo, 7, 5 and 3. So they keep me very busy and keep me on my toes for sure. Yes, I think a lot of time, probably like most parents goes, is any spare time I have, it's really trying to dedicate it to the kids, spend some time with them. And my parents, I talked about my parents a little bit about, they had their own business, and we spent most of my childhood seeing my parents work really hard. And for me, I want to work really hard, but I really want to make sure that I have quality time with my children whilst they're growing up, because they're growing up very fast. So, I don't, in a few years they won't want to know me. So whilst I've got them and I can still get cuddles, I'm making the most of that time. Oh,
it's lovely. And, it is so important to make that time, and it's so easy. But I remember when my children were young that all you want to do is get a lie in the morning. And it's that milestone moment when you can actually have a lie-in and you don't have to get up and tend to them at 6 or 7 in the morning. You shouldn't wish their life away, but it's just, I never forget that moment of being able to...
Do you know, Lily, I have friends that complain about their teenage kids that won't get out of bed, and I'm like, do you know what, I can't wait till the day that I have that problem, because even on a Saturday, it's probably like 5:45, and our house is up doing breakfast, and... yes, it's desperate. It's challenging.
I know, but it's all lovely, and it goes so quickly. Now, I want to talk to a bit. I'm not a fan of the word journey, but talk about the vision that you had when you started with the new business, especially. What vision did you have, and what are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? Perhaps your next 10-year plan.
Yeah, when we set up Tooth Club, which is our new brand, our new business, we had a lot of time to think about what we wanted to do and how we wanted to be different, and the whole thing with dentistry, and I kind of did it unconsciously at Tooth Doctor, but the whole focus with Tooth Club is about patients with dental anxiety. No one likes going to the dentist, let's be honest, right? Yeah, people have the association that you go to the dentist, you ring up and you've got a bulldog sitting behind reception who's very cold, and if you're lucky you'll get an appointment. You walk into the surgery and all you can smell is the disinfectant and that horrible clinical smell. Everything looks really blue and from the 1960s. And I remember all of these things come back to when I was going to the dentist as a child, and I hated it, and I still have anxiety to this day when I sit in a dental chair, and I own 7 practices. But, so my whole vision with Tooth Club was to change that. So you walk into one of our clinics, they aesthetically look amazing. I don't want you to feel like you're in a dentist. I want you to feel like, you're going in to have, you're spending money to have a nice, pleasurable treatment as much as it can be. And, what we've done to kind of give that good quality patient journey is you walk in, you'll have a lovely receptionist behind the desk who's well trained, can talk about treatments, but can also make conversation and make people feel relaxed if they're having a root canal treatment or an invasive treatment. Our front of house is really important. We have really nice smells as you walk in. The music is nice cups of teas for our patients. So that whole patient journey is really, really nice. You then walk into one of our surgeries and you're going to be given a 5-star treatment. Our clinicians are really, really well trained. The team as well, the nurses, our treatment coordinators are all trained to make sure we give patients a really nice service. And we don't compromise on that. We don't always get it right, but we're constantly striving to make sure that we achieve that 100% of the time. So patients sit down, they're going to have a root canal. You can choose your favourite Netflix show whilst you're having your root canal treatment. And we use the best technology out there. So even some of the most invasive treatments, should be, I won't say pain-free, but less pain for sure. And just a nicer experience with great follow-up care for our patients. And that really is the focus of everything we do. It is patient care.
They're such simple core values, but if you get it right, it works. And you have to stick to it. And people will tell their friends. And of course, people have a bad experience in the dentist, and their perception is reality, whether you agree with it or not. But it sounds really lovely. I have to say, I almost wish I had a tooth problem to come and see you about, but I'm glad I don't. I'll take your word for it.
And one thing I would say is we can't achieve it without the team. It's the people in our teams that make it happen. Because I can sit here and say all these great things. I'm not the one that's at front of house, dealing with that anxious patient or kind of making them a cup of tea. And it's actually, we've got a really, really good quality, strong team in all of our practices. And even the new ones that we're onboarding, it's a 12-week journey to getting them on board, but it's exactly the same thing we want to achieve there. And we can only do it with our people. And we've got a fantastic team that work tirelessly for our patients and genuinely care about our patients.
That is so important, isn't it? And if everyone's not rowing in the same direction, I talk about this on various other blogs, and we talk to our team about it. And I'm like you, we're very fortunate, we're very blessed. We are really a tight team, and we do all row in the right direction and support each other. And you cannot have someone just peeling off rogue with a different attitude and a different mindset that just tuts and huffs, because the effect on the team morale is enormous. And what isn't important to them is very important to everybody else. So that's very good, isn't it? And obviously, with your team, do you have to find that you have to consistently just keep talking to them about the services you expect, or are they all very much on board and they understand this is the company culture?
Yeah, and look, I wouldn't say Tooth Club isn't without its challenges. Absolutely, we have challenges that everyone else faces in the dental space at the moment. But I would say, our core focus has been to embed good culture and values within the business. Our tagline is work hard, make a difference and have fun. And I swear by that, because, you have to work hard, right? That's what we're here for. We're here for our patients. But equally, have fun, because, that also resonates on our patients. And what we do is two things, I think, is kind of part of our strategy. So the first thing is invest in training, really invest in our people. So make sure that we're coaching them, training them, so that they understand what we're trying to deliver. And that's been really, really important. And then secondly is also incentivizing. Often staff think, oh, you've got this founder or CEO, he's earning huge amounts of money. And the reality is I'm not. And one day, hopefully I will. But, and that's not the whole essence of why we're doing this. This is really a project that wants to go and make a difference and change the dynamics of the service of dentistry. but what I would say is giving people incentives and financial incentives and bonuses is, it brings people together. They have the common purpose, and and our, all of our bonuses and incentives aren't just geared around financial targets. They're geared around patient service, patient feedback, and that's what's really helped us to try and get it right, because we're growing very fast, very aggressively, and we can't do that if we don't have good quality people on our teams.
Absolutely. It's all got to work together, hasn't it? And I know you're busy, because I know that my team, and particularly Helen, who you might as well works for you almost. Well, yeah. She's very busy with you. That's great to see. And you're up to 7 practices, is that right?
Yes, 7 practices. So Tooth Club, what we try and do is we don't try and rebrand if we don't need to rebrand, because there's a lot to be said. One of our culture and values is to try and keep things local. So we empower our managers to run their practices almost as a business manager, as a practice manager, rather than trying to micromanage. And within that, what we do is we listen to feedback. So when we do an acquisition, we speak to people and we say, actually, is there benefit of rebranding? And if there is, great, we will rebrand. We love our brand, but there's often times where it's not the right move. It puts people off, to go in and do these major changes. It unsettles staff, it unsettles patients. So we very much don't always do that. So when you look at the Tooth Club website, you may only see 4 practices on there, but there's another 3 in the umbrella that are actually, we've kept them isolated to their own brand, because they're good quality brands. The people that we bought from, the principals we bought from, have done a really good job. So why change that when something's working? Yeah.
That's good. You've answered my next question, which was about how, building the brand. Apart
Yes.
from isolated practices in your group, that, as you say, you've made the commercial decision to keep them as they are. But let's talk a little bit about you building the actual brand, and any advice you can give somebody that is at the beginning of their journey, perhaps. What are the sort of key learnings that you made?
Yeah, I mean, brainstorm. Me and my wife had many conversations over during COVID, actually, over our kitchen worktop, where we were just talking about ideas of kind of names, and we've obviously done this before, so doing it the second time was almost so much harder, because we were trying to make it different, but there was things that we wanted to keep the same. So we went for something that was quite catchy. We went for something that was very didn't associate names to us, because we want the practice is about more than myself, right? I'm one part of the practice. It really is about the clinicians and the team on the front line that are delivering the service. And Tooth Club, that came out of the fact that we wanted patients to feel part of the family. We wanted our team to feel part of the family and be associated with something, and that's where Tooth Club came out. It was something we felt people would remember. It would stand out, and then in terms of our brand and colours, we wanted something that was really young and dynamic, and it comes from my own kind of secret guilty pleasures of watching reality shows. Dentistry right now, and aesthetic demand of dentistry has really been a game changer. Treatments like Invisalign, composite bonding, teeth whitening, dental implants, it's a huge market, even Botox and fillers. And I grew up in Essex, so there's a bit of that in my blood. But we really do appeal to that younger market. And we love doing smile transformations. It's our biggest passion. And I had a market trader once, and it was in Basildon, and he said to me, he came in and he was like, I can't afford dental implants. I said, we do finance options, and we worked it out for him, and he got his implants. And every week when that guy in his market store got stock delivery and got samples in, he'd come in with a massive box of clothes for my wife, and give me this massive box of clothes. And I sat down and I said, you need to stop doing this. You always give so much. And he said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I hadn't been able to eat a steak, right? Yeah, in 8 years. He goes, I was living on soups and soft foods, and we'd made such a difference to his life. And he was coming and giving me gifts for my wife every week off his stall, and it was just so nice. And that's what I mean about really making a difference on someone. And that this guy really appreciated it, and we do this every single day. Doing smile transformations, and that kind of comes to the brand and comes to the heart of the business. And I say to my team, do not treat anyone in this practice like you wouldn't treat your mum. And if we get that right, and we treat patients like they're our own family, and do right by them, everything else will follow.
Good.
And so far, touch wood, that ethos is working.
That's cool. Now, obviously, along the way, you've doubtless acquired your practices and you've viewed a lot of practices. You've probably kissed a few frogs along the way, as they say. But let's talk about, you will have acquired them through various means, but the benefits to you of using a broker and helping you, determine the wheat from the chaff. What has it done for you using a broker? I know we've been fortunate enough to work with you on several occasions, but overall, what's your sort of message to people out there about going out to secure a site they're looking and they may feel that it's quite daunting?
Lily, I'm going to say something a little bit unconventional. There's brokers and then there's brokers, right? And there's a real difference between good quality brokers that know what they're doing and those that are just estate agents, just mass selling practices. And I receive probably at least 5 new brochures a day on practices that are up for sale, and the first thing I look at, who's it from, and there'll be some brokers that I look at it and it's just mass produced estate agency. So you open the prospectus, and the prospectus will tell you something, and I don't believe a word of it. So I'm like, and the price normally is crazy and overinflated, but let's say the price looks right. The first thing I will do is go and get the accounts, and guess what? The accounts normally don't match the prospectus. So at that point, I don't go any further. I don't even bother. It's not worth my time to try and dig deep, because if the broker hasn't done the work and has said something on the prospectus that doesn't match the financial accounts, and we've just seen it too many times. But then you've got your good brokers, and like Lilyhead, who when you get a prospectus through, you're like, you know what? This is, you can guarantee the information is going to be right. It's worth the probing. It's worth the look. One thing that I particularly like, you mentioned Helen. We've also got Asher that's working on a transaction for us right now. But the one thing is that, if they send you a prospectus and you've got a question, you pick up that phone, they're going to know the answer. And, I don't think I've ever picked up the phone to Helen and she didn't actually even know the answer, or that she's had to go and find out. She knows the practice. She knows what she's selling. And that makes a huge amount of difference because, because then you can kind of rely on what someone's telling you. You can rely on the prospectus. There's what's being put in front of you is good quality. And that's, and for me, that then means that I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to go and see a practice. And that's really the difference. And for me, Helen has been fantastic. My feelings on Helen very, very well. Because a journey of buying a practice, it is a journey. It takes 6 to 9 months. And when you go on that journey, there's going to be ups and downs. There's things you find in the due diligence that comes out. But it's the way that those things are handled, because ultimately you want to get to completion. There is no point starting an acquisition journey, spending on legal costs, putting down a deposit and not getting to the end. So for me, there's brokers and there's brokers. And, Lilyhead is definitely on one of my favourites list. You sold me my first, and you sold me my first at Tooth Doctor. You sold me my first at Tooth Club. We've got practice number 8, hopefully, fingers crossed, at the end of this month with you guys.
Yep,
so
fingers crossed.
I definitely say the quality of what comes out of Lilyhead is far superior than a lot.
Well, I think it goes back to, thank you very much, first of all, and I'm very proud of all of my team. I've had the pleasure of working with Helen for 30 years. Can you believe that? 30 years.
Oh, she's going to thank you for that, because everyone knows her age now.
I know. But it's so important to get correct information, because whatever you're sent, whatever you're buying in life, if you start to get duff information, it makes you doubt the credibility of all the information. And as you touched upon, so many practices, the wheels fall off, it crashes and burns because when you dig into the financial due diligence, it's not accurate. And it's so important to be honest, transparent, and find out the answers. But if you are uncovering a whole can full of worms, then I can imagine as a buyer, the amount of time, effort and money you waste on looking at dodos must be extraordinary.
Yeah.
So well done you for weeding them out in the first place and moving no further.
Yeah.
But sadly, some people cling on desperately, hoping that it'll come right. But of course, if they haven't got the right information, and if the broker doesn't understand the machinations of the practice, then you've got no hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, talking about kind of the sale kind of journey, what happened, it is a long journey, and you've got so many people involved. You have to get the tax accountant involved. You've got 2 sets of lawyers, and then if the banks put another set of lawyers in, you've got the surveyor's valuation. There's so many parties to it. And one of the things, and this transaction that Asher and I are hopefully going to complete on in the next few weeks, she'll tell you it's been a very, very long journey. But the thing that's kept it on course is the fact that Asha has been on top of every single person. And, she'll send me an email saying, hey, what's happening? And I love it because it's a prompt and it's going to get us to that end, state. And you have to. And there's just, and if you're not the person that's screaming to get that piece of work done on your lawyer's table, right, yeah, it's just going to fall into the background. And, and for us now, it is because we've got a few acquisitions going on, our group's growing, my time's limited, and just having that extra support of someone trying to keep that transaction on course really makes it worthwhile.
That's good. Well, I'm very pleased to hear it, and long may it continue. And how many practices do you want to end up owning then in the Tooth Club stable?
It's a really, really, really good question. So my answer to this is always, I want less, but I want quality. So the goal is, the goal was always to get to 10 practices by Christmas. I think realistically we're going to get to 9, and I don't think we're going to make the 10th one this year, and that's okay because I want 9 good quality practices come December rather than 10 half-baked practices.
No, I agree.
And for me, it's about making sure that every practice delivers what we say we're going to deliver. Some of the acquisitions that we've done have had a few rocky roads along the way, so it just takes us that little bit more time. So my focus is really about doing quality. So we'll get to 9 this year. The goal is probably at least 5 next year. In terms of funding and financing, the challenges have changed because post COVID, but we've got a few things that are going to help us through those challenges. So definitely, we'll definitely be at 15 next year by December next year. And as long as they're good quality practices, delivering the patient care, delivering the culture and values that we've set out to do, we will continue to grow. However, if we don't get those 15 100% right across the board, we will slow our journey down. So, whenever we buy a practice, there is an element of, it isn't all financial. You are taking on something that someone's built. One practice that we're buying at the moment, the guy spent, 15 years building up a practice. It is his baby. And, yes, there's a financial element, but he is then trusting his staff, all the nurses, all the people that he's trained up and have been loyal to him over to us, and we have to repay that loyalty, and we have to repay that loyalty by integrating that practice well, continuing it to grow it, and bringing people on that journey so they feel rewarded, empowered, and continue to kind of have good careers with us. So that's why it's really important for me that whatever we do it right, we do it to good level of quality, because I also believe, let's talk financials, because there is an element of this which is a business and its financials. I also feel my 9 practices will deliver a great quality EBITDA if we do them well. And there is so much growth potential within those 9 practices that we can continue to evolve. So everything we do, we want to do really well.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
And we are not a corporate that goes and adds multiple practices just to add tons of EBITDA that's going to kind of sell after 5 years just to kind of multiply that EBITDA. That's not our game. That's not our strategy. It's all about good quality. Less, but do it well. Our profile mix has typically been to be more on the private side. The patient journey we're trying to deliver tends to work more well on the private side, and our profitability and being able to give patients the time and care they need tends to work better on private. However, we do have some small NHS contracts as well that we service, and they work well and are a good opportunity for us as well. To be able to show patients the other side of treatments that we can offer that aren't strictly on the NHS, so things like Invisalign. So private for us has worked really well. We do a lot of marketing, and actually I kind of fell into it by accident. Watching a few YouTube videos, I learned how social media marketing works, but also I always try and see our patient journey as being the patient. So if someone's visiting our website, does it make sense? Is it clear? Does it give the patient the information they want? The same with the social media side. We do a lot on social media, so we're on Instagram, on Facebook, and the posts we do are really relatable, and that is what has been kind of our way of growing private revenue. And a lot of the acquisitions that we do are buy and build practices. So they're practices that have huge growth potential, where we can add some social media, we can add kind of the Invisalign, the implants, the Botox and fillers, and grow those practices and grow the EBITDA on those practices. And that's where we really tend to go. And the NHS, I find, gives us a smaller opportunity to do that. Hence why we tend to go for more private high street practices.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talked about buy and build, but what about,
Yes.
straight squats from zero?
Yes. Oh, we love a squat.
What's your experience?
Yes, we've done it. We've done a few squats now.
Every time we
three
get a
in the
squat
pocket.
in, everybody in the team shouts, "Send it to Kunal."
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Oh, I love a squat. So we've done 3 squats so far, and I love it. A squat is an opportunity to start afresh. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of downsides of a squat, and there are lots of downsides of a buy and build, and vice versa. But the good sides of a squat is you can design it how you want. You can choose the paint colours, you can choose the chairs. We've got a really fantastic team now of builders and contractors, and everyone kind of knows what they want to do. But what it allows us to do is really put our brand and put our stamp on it. We hire a team and we do a ton of training to make sure there's no bad habits in there, and that's what works well. The downside is bringing the patients in, so you need a lot of cash flow, anyone that's doing a squat, make sure you have money in the bank to turn over the bills for at least the first 6 to 9 months, and make sure they're in a good location. And good location doesn't always mean affluent areas. When one of my practices, Bupa, said to me, "Oh, we're not going to buy that practice because it's not in an affluent area." Guess what? That practice was turning over close to 2 million, not in an affluent area, but it was in the right location on a high street, and had great footfall. So I would say that squats are great, but equally, where I see, if I get the opportunity, and I see small practices in a good location, I'd buy them. If they're small and they've got growth opportunity, we will go and buy them. So our portfolio is definitely mixed. The squats appeal to me because I feel like I can really put my stamp on them and start afresh. And but yeah, I think if you're gonna build a group, I think it's nice to kind of have a mix of both. If you're gonna do just one practice, if you've got the cash flow, to slowly build up a squat and you're being patient, I think squats are a good opportunity for people, for an individual principal.
It's about having that confidence, isn't it? And absolutely understanding your business. Because if you don't,
Yes.
you're going to be becoming a cropper, frankly, and a cash flow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's so many facets to building the client-based marketing. Everything takes time and money, and you've got to get it done
Yes.
right. And the team.
Absolutely.
And if you get it right, it's good. But it's not for the faint-hearted. I think you have to be very confident. You're obviously now in a really strong position. You've got the team around you, as well as your support team for your design and installation and everything, which is great. But no, that's very good advice. Kunal, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. And I'm going to call you this time next year to talk again on a podcast to find out how the Tooth Club, the brand is going, and how many practices you have.
Excellent.
It's been very illuminating also to hear, and I love your vision and your passion, and I truly wish you the very best of luck. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lily.
And
thank you for having me.
Fingers crossed for our completion on your 8th, is it, at the end of the month?
Yes.
And
thank
we
you.
look forward to helping you very much more in the future. And thank you all for listening to this podcast. Remember, of course, that you can download any of the Dental Business Transaction podcasts, and they're available on all the usual media: Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. And also, please like and subscribe, not only these, but our YouTube channel as well. Thanks very much. See you soon.